Hey, welcome to Sunday Sunday. We are getting a late start today, and Nino is giving me a hard time because I have an issue with punctuality. I personally don't have an issue. I show up on time. But anyhow, so we are here together to record, and we are going to talk about the difference between raising sons and daughters. So every Sunday on here today has a son and a daughter. So we just thought we would talk about the differences. And I don't know who wants to start. Anybody here want to start?
Are we including ages too? Like the differences in ages and everything? I guess all aspects. Right?
Yeah, because I can tell you that I knew the difference right away. So my kids are about 18 months apart. And I was able to tell the difference between a boy and a girl immediately in the way.
Yeah, me too, when they were born.
Yeah, right away.
Yeah, it's like there's women and... Okay, that's another topic.
Yeah, so Erin, let's start with you. What is, you have an older daughter and a younger son?
Yeah, I could tell the difference during my pregnancy. As soon as I knew I was pregnant, the difference between a boy and a girl. So with my son, my daughter was the easiest pregnancy textbook. Everything was like right spot on. You know, when I was reading that, what's that book? What to expect when you're expecting? So I would follow along. That was before we could use all these really cool apps, and he actually used hard copy books. And I remember she was just right along, and my son I was so afraid. I was like, this kid is going to be a nightmare when he gets born. I had preeclampsia. He had a heart arrhythmia, so I had to go in multiple times a week to have his heart monitored, and he were monitoring me, and I had to take off of work early. And so I was just really nervous he was going to have, health issues when he was born with his heart. And as soon as he was born, easy peasy. He was just so easy. And so, yeah, he's a great kid and didn't give me all the heartburn I was worried about. So, yeah, I had terrible morning sickness too.
Don't they say with heartburn, your kid's going to have a lot of hair?
Yeah.
That's what I've always heard.
Yeah. I had heartburn too. Yeah, like all the things. So, yeah, but as soon as they, were actually here, such a difference. It's funny. I never really tried to gear my kids towards like, my daughter had to play with dolls and my son had to play with trucks. They just automatically gravitated naturally to those things. Like I think my son came out making truck noises and fart noises, and like, that's how he was born. So, and my daughter, pretty feminine and really likes all the girly things and is into makeup. And so it's interesting, even though I think a lot of those things can be influenced by society, some of the things are just nature, and how we're designed. So,
100%.
But yeah, personality wise though, they couldn't be any more different from one another. So my daughter's very vocal and my son is, a little bit more introverted, and he's more introspective, like just, thinking about things. He's an observer. And yeah, my daughter is more, just more outgoing. But they couldn't be any more different. So they're getting to the age where they're starting to get close, which I love. They're both teenagers. And I so love having the experience of the two different, different genders and different ages. So my brother is older than me. So it's interesting to see, the difference with an older sister, younger brother. So she looks out for him, which is good. She doesn't live with us now. She's moved away now, and she still checks in on my son and looks out for him, which is really cool. And he does the same for her too. So, and they have a love-hate relationship, deeply. But
isn't that true to all siblings?
Yeah.
That's how they love each other. They have to fight hard and love hard.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, that they would do anything, for each other when needed. So yeah,
it's interesting. When we were talking about this topic, I'm sorry, I keep looking at you guys instead of looking at the camera. I'm not used to this yet. After we're going on to 6 months now.
Yeah, this is our 49th episode.
I still can't get used to looking at the camera. That's so bad. I wasn't thinking about the differences in utero, because there definitely is a difference when you're pregnant with a female and you're pregnant with a male. There's major differences. Like my body I felt so sexy when I was pregnant with my son. Like I was perky, I was sleek. I just had like a basketball in my belly. I just like my hair was nice and thick. My lashes were nice and long. My skin glowed. I mean, I know that, I was pregnant with him in Florida. So maybe that had something to do with it. But as soon as I got pregnant with my girl, she was my second one, I didn't know back fat until I got pregnant with my daughter. Everything was just like so much bigger and so much like droopier. And I had like, I've always thought that being pregnant with a girl makes mama a little ugly because baby
She
girl
takes
is
all her
taking
beauty.
all her beauty.
Yeah.
Yes. And so I had like adult acne. I just didn't feel like sexy or pretty. My hair got super thin. It was very, very interesting. And then I had another girl, same thing. I got just a little heavier. And then my last child, my fourth, is a boy. And that's when everything kind of just started looking a little bit better. Yes, I have to work hard to lose the baby fat. I mean, I guess it's been 15 years, so I've been working a lot to lose the baby fat. But yeah, there was a huge difference. That was, I would say, in utero was the biggest.
You know what I noticed with Carolina too, because I was around when she was pregnant with her second daughter. She couldn't eat eggs.
Yeah.
And she can't eat eggs now, right?
Right.
Which is very interesting. She can eat eggs now.
Mhm.
Lena can eat eggs now, and now her daughter does not. So it's just interesting how even allergies are passed on to the mother and things that you can't. I think it's so incredibly beautiful.
Yeah. How connected.
Yes.
Yeah. Her allergy was present in me before she was even born because it was reflected in how I was eating.
Isn't it interesting the characteristics that they get
Mhm.
from the mother and from the father too?
Mhm.
Yeah, the different, even just physical features of what they get. So
Yeah. And it's really interesting that what you talked about toys too. And my boys were always really, really into Legos and like building things and really working with their hands, whether it was like, the toolboxes that you would get. And then it would come with like a screw and like a hammer. And like they always wanted to be
Yeah, the
banging and like
workbench.
being, like a little workbench. They were always like wanting to be banging and making noises and like turning wheels and whatnot. And the girls were always just like covering their ears and like looking for the soft toys and not necessarily the Barbies, like girly stuff, but just things that were soft, things that were gentle, things that weren't like rattly. Is that good?
Noisemakers,
Yeah, they weren't looking for noisemakers. They were looking for soft, gentle things
which
to
by the
play
way
with all the time.
is a great gift to give to your grandchildren.
I said absolutely.
So what about you guys? Tanisha?
Say that
Yeah.
again.
Listening to each one of you and thinking that there's no universal answer to the question that you asked because a lot goes, characteristics. It's also when you're pregnant with your child or your baby, it's what emotions are you going through? That's what you pass on. Like for me, I feel I got pregnant twice and both were for wrong reasons. The first child I had was to save my marriage. The second one was to make sure that the first one is not lonely. And I was going through extreme stress both the time. So I feel, that, it's the mix of biology, personality, characteristics, conditioning, culture, temperament that I was going through that when I'm listening to you, I'm like, I don't remember what was I eating, what is that? What flavors were I enjoying more? Because I was just stressed out. I had my first one in India, my second one in United States. And the biggest difference that I recall is pregnancy is a piece of cake in this country because you don't feel a pain at all. You're given an epidural, you're looking at a screen and it tells you just, if it spikes, you push. Whereas in India, they don't give you epidural just because you're pregnant. You go through the pain. You actually, you have to endure that pain to deliver a child. It's like get used to the pain. So two very different experiences, two very different environments where I delivered both of them. And I see a whole lot of difference in their temperament now when they are, both of them are adults now. So especially their teenage years.
There's a lot of studies too on a child's temperament based on their delivery.
Mhm.
Like if they're born naturally or if they were, taken away from mom via C-section on their temperament, it makes a huge difference.
I just say too that it really makes me upset how they do that in the
Babies are
US.
ripped out of their
Yeah,
mothers.
I
Scheduled.
I would not
Yes.
do things the way that I did before. No, I wouldn't allow what with me. And I had like normal situations too, that just how it's so common for them to want to do a C-section, even when it's not necessary, because it makes the hospitals a lot of money.
And it's
so,
supposed to be on the doctor's watch, not on your natural timeline.
yeah, the Pitocin, them giving you Pitocin, then you can't get on top of your contractions, and then it's like, well, got to do a C-section.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry, not the topic. But
No, I think that's a great topic to bring up because I have not, all my kids were born via C-section. So my first one, I had complications. And as you know, in a previous episode, he passed away shortly after. And then for my second one, my body was not dilating. And Aaron and I have had this conversation before. And I think back and I wonder if I had waited a little bit longer, could I have dilated? You know, because they
Unreal,
say,
yeah.
right, because they say, well, they had to break my water with him. And I don't remember why. Why were we doing that? And so I ended up having a C-section with him. And by the third one, they said, you know, we're just not going to risk it. We're going to have a C-section. So I have not experienced, you know, kind of when Nina was talking about of people just automatically giving epidurals during labor. I unfortunately, I had to have an epidural for all three of mine. And I wish I could have experienced a natural birth. I would have loved that.
I did 2 and 2, and my first one was born in Florida. And back then, like it was so long ago, it was only 21 years ago, but still his lifetime ago in Florida, you had to pre-register for an epidural. So it wasn't just like on the shelf, like waiting for you, like a bottle of Tylenol. If you didn't pre-register for the epidural, you were not going to get it. And so Paula, actually, my sister, who's missing tonight, which Paula, I hope you like the episode and that we're doing okay without you. We had some technical difficulties. Anyway, we're here.
And our friend did not respect timeline. I have to say this, and I have sent you a recording separately. Please watch it.
Yes. Yes.
So when I got pregnant with my first, my sister Paula was like, you know, your body will know what to do. It is your God-given right to give birth to this child. And so that always just like kept playing in my head. It was like a continuous reporting in my mind. And so when they told me about this in Florida that I had to pre-register, I was like, well, no, I don't want to pre-register for it because then I'm going to want it.
Right.
And it was beautiful. It was a beautiful experience. It was painful, yes, but it was really beautiful to feel everything. And I don't like that women are robbed of that feeling because it is your God-given right. It is your God-given right. And so young ladies, if you're watching these episodes, talk to your husband, talk to your doctor, talk to God, have faith in the power of your body because it is perfectly made.
Absolutely.
And nobody knows your body more than you do. So endure the pain, believe in yourself, and push.
What about you, Tanisha? You've been quiet.
Just being patient. That's all. I'm listening to y'all. And then the topic got switched a little bit and I got to thinking my brain was just over here working. So I have 2 children and a boy and a girl. And yes, they were both different. With Miracle is my daughter's name. And I probably shouldn't have said that online or whatever. She definitely made me sick. She had me walking a sick pregnancy. Everything made me vomit. And and she gave me heartburn and the worst hiccups. She actually had hiccups and my stomach would always jump every time. Yeah, it was the weirdest feeling. I thought it was so cool, but it was so awesome. Like she had the worst hiccups. My stomach was always doing something. And I gained so much weight with her. I gained 50 pounds with Miracle. Yeah, she had me chunky. And then, you know, Bubba, I only gained 20 pounds with him. And I loved watermelon. I actually quit smoking with Miracle the first time. That made me so sick. I mean, people would drive past with their windows open, smoke a cigarette, and I'd be standing like feet away. And I would catch that whiff. I mean, it'd be the smallest whiff. My mom, she would wear this pear perfume. I'd be like, if you put that on again, I would hide her perfume. And she would just buy some more.
That's funny.
Yeah. So I don't know. They were both different though. They were different. I actually enjoyed carrying Benjamin much more than Miracle. And so
I also want to say that after my kids were born too, my son, who is the older one, he was very easy. Very easy. Slept through the night, ate anything you wanted to give him. I have got pictures of him is still in a high chair eating fried okra and a salad and a lasagna and chicken. And he ate everything, wanted to try everything. Super, super, super easy. And then Monique came along and it's funny because I have a picture of her dad holding her and she's just crying. All she did was cry. In her defense, I don't think I was making enough milk. And so she was always latched onto me. And I was like, I can't figure out why this baby won't stop crying. And then my mom, God bless our moms, she got some milk, some rice, and then she just opened up the nipple a little bit more. And we used my breast milk to mix in with the rice. And she was a little bit better. But I will say that even now, she's far more loud and aggressive. Not aggressive, but louder than her brother. Her brother is more laid back. He doesn't like crowds. So there is quite a stark difference in the two of them. So yeah.
Boys are definitely easier in utero. I definitely had an easier time with both of my boys' pregnancies, with both of their pregnancies. And the girls were really difficult. Yeah.
Sappy's
Benjamin was 8'9". That was a big boy. And let me tell you, I might as well have given birth naturally because the epidural wore off. Click, click, click. Hello, I need something. I felt every bit of him coming out. It was crazy. He was a big baby and he stayed big. He's still a big man. Like, he's a big boy. I will say Miracle was Miracle was definitely different from Benjamin. She came off the breast on her own. She was like, I'm about my own life. Benjamin, I had to kick him off, like literally get off of me, So like they were definitely different. It's funny that as we think about this, I remember and miss, it's very nostalgic. I miss the pregnancy. I miss them because Miracle's 28 and Benjamin is about to be 26. So my kids are hella grown. They're up there. So it's been a long time since baby's been around. But just this conversation alone is making me miss them and their youth and just their faces and, the connections, the different connections, because you make different connections with each child. It's not the same. And so their experience with you is different. Miracle swears Benjamin's the favorite. Benjamin swears he is the favorite. I mean, it's just, it's funny, but their characters that they grew into, very different. They love each other much now. When they were younger, they were at each other's throats. I swear. I thought I was going to have to jack the both of them up because they fought like cats and dogs. But now, they're basically inseparable. Like they have a really good relationship and I love that for them. But, they were different. Absolutely.
And still, there's so many differences between boys and girls, not necessarily just in like the kinder years where they're picking different types of toys, but in their adulting years, like 16
100%.
plus, the way that they develop relationships, the way that they have curiosity of romantic relationships, the way that they do chores, totally different, totally different. It's interesting. My girls do not do chores as well as my boys. And I feel like I have raised them all with the same expectation of helping out at home, but it's completely different. What about you guys? Do you see differences in your kids as
when
far
we
as
talk
chores?
about teenage years, I feel when it comes to chores, I shouldn't say chores, but when it comes to cleanliness and stuff like that, I feel both my kids are very organized and structured. My daughter is a next level OCD. My son, when I see other boys around, I feel is very clean. My biggest challenge is how they emotionally express. My daughter is very expressive and my son takes time. You have to like poke to get things out of him. He's more private. And I also feel he expresses more through anger and withdrawal versus my daughter is just ready to have a conversation, and she has anxiety at times. So different approaches, but I think for me, raising a girl was much easier than raising a boy. But again, I feel it's different for every parent. I'm like, when I hear stories about how difficult it is to raise a girl child, I'm like, and it was a piece of cake for me. She sometimes acts like my mother. But for my son, I'm still trying to figure out how to be a better parent. So it's different. What about you, Erin?
I think I learned different things from each of them. They're so different from one another. So I think, my daughter, just our relationship is different than what it is with my son. And like you said, Tanisha, I think they both would argue of like, he's your favorite, she's your favorite, and you play favorites with me. I don't think that's true at all. I just have a different relationship with them. Like I know what motivates one of them versus the other and what doesn't, or how to, how they prefer to be spoken to, or, things that work and don't work with them. So I can't take the same approach with both of them because they're so different from one another. So that's a challenge for me sometimes because I feel like I've learned a lot with my daughter being the oldest and felt like, okay, I kind of know what I'm doing. And then along comes my son, and it's like I'm learning a whole new thing, you know, like, okay, this is very different than how my daughter is. And so I've had to adjust my approach in a lot of ways with both of them. But yeah, I think, I don't know, I think my son is very he's easygoing, and he has such a they both have such big hearts. And I think for him, he just, is, if I ask him to do something, it's like, okay, and he'll just, get
That's how
it
the boys
done.
are.
My daughter will negotiate. Like, she is,
Yeah.
what I used to call her is the negotiator. So, which, is a strength also. She's strong-willed, and but that can be challenging sometimes for me too. So yeah, that's kind of a learning experience for me to learn how to just shift my style for both of them, and how I respond to them and interact with both of them. So yeah.
I wonder if it's because with boys, like they do better with chores because it's like the task at hand and they just want to get it done and they understand, okay, this is how you need my help and this is what I need to do in order to move on to the next thing. Like even my husband does better with like lists and I don't mean just with chores. I mean, just like tasks at hand, even at work. But I'm not a huge list maker. Are you guys list makers when it comes to
Yes,
chores?
I am.
You do?
Yeah.
Okay. So I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong in that. Maybe that is not gender specific, but my boys have always been way more helpful around the house. What about you?
Well, I got my kids on chores right away. I would say that they were starting to do their own laundry, dishes, little chores here and there, picking up after themselves like at toddlers. So I think both of my kids are really good. They're really good at cleaning. They are really good at cleaning. Now, I will say that sometimes I'll tell my son to do this and he will miss certain things or just be wanting to get it done, like you said, wanting to get it done and missing other things. I've never really had a problem with them doing their chores. And in fact, they didn't even need a bedtime. They would always one thing we love to do in my family is sleep. God bless us. We love to sleep. So there was the same with that, But one thing you said, Erin, is that I really like that I wish I had heard when I was a lot younger was that you have to come and approach them differently. And I think that for a long time, and I still do this now at times, is I approach them the same. And it doesn't work. It doesn't work even at this age. So my daughter is 26, 27. My son is 28. I'm so old, I don't even remember. But, even at this age, that still comes into play. And last thing I want to add is they learn differently. So when we went down on a pandemic, I was so glad that my kids were not in school anymore because I don't think that my son would have succeeded with online learning. My daughter, absolutely, but I think my son likes more interaction. He's like me. I need the interaction. I need to be able to touch things and do things. And I need to be able to ask questions, raise my hand and have the interaction. So I definitely feel, and I've witnessed that my son and daughter learn different, process differently. That's been a big thing that I've seen. And I notice it with my granddaughters too.
Definitely. The way they learn. 100% agree with that.
I think that my kids definitely they, everything was really different for the both of them. But let me just tell you, they both are messy. They both were messy and they didn't take from me. I was a strict mother. Saturdays, all I wanted to see was ass and elbows. Okay. Literally. Like, I need you down, and we're doing, baseboards and all that. And they didn't take none of that from me. So the both of them, they both were messy. But as far as, learning, yes, they definitely learn different. Miracle, I could approach Miracle, even right now, she's absolutely a very mature, responsible young lady. Like, she walks in a different kind of thought process. Even though she still does her stuff, she walks in a different process. Benjamin, I had to chase after Benjamin. Benjamin had me on my toes and still has me on my toes to this day. So, but they definitely learn differently. I had to put a lot of energy into Benjamin and his education and the way that he was, raised. I stayed on top of them. I didn't have to put that much energy into Miracle. And so when I give Miracle a task, or that, she knew the expectation. She didn't raise problems. She didn't give me trouble like that. Benjamin tested the waters with every step every breath that child breathed was testing waters for me. And so, it was different raising them. And as I said, like it was like raising different children. Everything was different for the both of them, coming to them differently. So, that was my experience.
Yeah. Minu, you were kind of nodding there.
Absolutely. I, agree with everything she's saying. Like for me, raising a girl child was a piece of cake. And with my son, he's very independent, very sensible, way mature than his age, but he tests waters. Sometimes I had to remind him who's the parent here. So, and I think I need to develop a different level of patience to have a conversation with him. Whereas with my daughter, it's easy, it's very fluid. With my son, I have to structure my thoughts and then show next level of patience, which is a skill to have, which I'm trying to learn. So it's hard sometimes.
I think what's cool about having a son also is it's helped me learn so much that I did not know about how males think and how they operate. And, because the child literally lives inside of you and you've been there with them all along, and so just learning all of that from every step of the way, it's so different than interacting with your husband or your father or your brother. It's a different experience to actually observe that as your child and learn about how they think and how they like to communicate and how they like to be communicated to. I've really had a lot to learn in that arena. And I really appreciate that with him, because of his demeanor, it makes it a little easier for me to learn too, just the way he is, and his personality. And I'm grateful for that. But one thing you said everybody was talking about here too is I think birth order
Yes.
matters too. So my son, I think has, watched all of the things that my daughter did that maybe, not maybe that she was testing boundaries and had consequences or didn't have consequences. And watched all of that, it's kind of like, okay, I'm learning from this and I'm not doing that, I'm doing this, and learned how to navigate all of those things too. So that's always an interesting, dynamic between siblings, but also from, female to male. So yeah.
And also, I feel it's the, your family structure or dynamics, whether you were raised by both parents who were on the same
Oh,
page when it comes to
absolutely.
parenting, or were you raised by a single parent? Like in my case, I feel my struggle starts because my son feels he's the man of the house, at times, and because I raised him. So somewhere I'm guilty because the kind of maturity he shows outside, I'm like, where did I go wrong? You have it in you, but why do I struggle? So I do feel every child presses more button with their mother than with their dad. Because, when it's two parents, one is one who's going to discipline you, the other one will give you more flexibility. So yeah, sometimes it's unfortunate when kids are grown up in broken households.
It makes it difficult when you have to be the enforcer and the lover at the same time. You have to learn how to make that happy medium. I was a helicopter parent. I did Love and Logic. And so, I was always, overpowering, and I need to know what you're doing and blah, blah, blah. And then, somewhere along the line, I had to kind of change my style, of coming to them and engaging with them. I will say also, I was going to say that Benjamin, throughout the years, he was a much more, his demeanor was mellow. Like he didn't react. He was a lot calmer. Miracle, on the other hand, she was snap. Like she would show her attitude real quick, and it would be so different. Like I would have to really, kind of push Benjamin to get a reaction out of him and see, how do you feel about certain things that move you? You know what I'm saying? Because he moved differently. Even though he kept me on my toes, he moved differently. He didn't react at all. And when I yell, he'd be like, whatever, mom's just yelling. Miracle be like, she might try to clap back. If she try maybe, but she didn't much,
That's interesting that both Savvy and Minu were saying that their sons might be, I don't want to say the word difficult, but they were.
It requires next level of patience to deal with the boys, then the girls.
And it's the opposite for me. It was the opposite for me. My son, other than a short stint of time, he was the mellow one. He was the peacemaker. So Savvy and my kids, they went to high school together, and there were some fights. And my son, that was the one that was breaking those up. My son was the protector, and the daughter is like you said, she's the one. It's like, cover your mouth, like stop talking, just be quiet, And she wants to she's like, I'm right, and she probably is right, and she could be right, but that doesn't mean you always need to speak. And so my son, I'll be like, hurry up, let's go, and he's taking his sweet little time. He's just the mellow one. And I'm so glad, because I didn't want to create that kind of anxiety, because as a single mom, I've always felt like I was running late. Me knew. I was always like,
I hear you.
I was
You're always
like,
late.
rush. And I feel like I put that anxiety in my daughter, and my son, he'll take his sweet time. He doesn't really rush. And it's kind of annoying to me, because my life is always, I need to be here on time. I need to do this. I need to hurry up and do this. I need to get this done. And my son's just not like that. My daughter is, most definitely.
In my household, so I have 4 kids. The boys are the bookends and the girls are in the middle. And my 2 older kids are they're thinkers. They're thinkers, and they definitely think a lot about what they're about to say before they speak. But my oldest daughter, she is like Miracle. She's just like, you want to tell me what to do, or you want to challenge me? I'm going to have something to say about that. You know what I mean? Like she talks back. She always has. My son doesn't necessarily talk back, but he thinks about what he's going to say before he says it. And then that gets me to kind of like redirect my thoughts. So it's almost like he's kind of not manipulative, but like very, I don't know what the word is. He's just very observant and makes me like rethink what I'm thinking and what I'm speaking to him, if that makes any sense.
Great.
And then my
good
younger
quality.
kid, and it's really interesting, because I feel like the younger kids in all of our scenarios, they're all observers, whether they're male or they're female. And I'm the third daughter of 4, from my parents, and my thinking has always been that the younger children are always observers, because they're learning how to communicate with everybody in the household. Because just like how you were saying, Erin, like it's all about how you show up to a certain situation for your kids or for your spouse or for your friends. Like how people receive you and how they react to you has a lot to do with how you show up into that situation. And so the younger 2, they have like been seeing all these examples, good or bad, in communication. And so they're usually a little bit more quiet, and they don't react as quickly. They are more observers. And my younger kids are not fighters. They do not like to argue. They really do not like to argue. If, I tell them to do something, they're just like, okay. Even my youngest daughter, she was not like a negotiator with chores. She was just like, okay, I'll do that. Whereas my oldest daughter was definitely a negotiator with chores. She still is, and she's 20. So I do think that the order that they are born in has a lot to do with how they show up in certain situations.
I think it's an example of how it's, just men and women, we process information differently too. Like we so do. And it's been so interesting to learn about that. And I also learned too that my relationship with them is so different as they move through different stages of their lives. So when they were younger, I was so used to like just telling them, like directing everything. Like this is what we're doing, and I need you to do this, and and kind of being like the just command person, and then they get to a certain age and it's like, yeah, that doesn't work at all anymore. And they will challenge you back and should, like that's what they're supposed to do. They're part of that boundary pushing is what they're supposed to do, learning where the boundaries are and how to navigate in the world, what's okay and what's not. But yeah, I'll be honest, it's been a really challenging thing for me because I didn't really know what to do at that point. It was like, wait, what? Like you're not going to listen to me?
You're just going to follow directions?
I told you something, Like,
yeah.
She said, wait, what?
Still working on that. So
Wait, what?
And I also feel somewhere it's the age when you become pregnant. If you become pregnant at a very early age, then you don't have the maturity yourself. You're not there. It takes time to actually accept being an adult, and adulting is hard. So, at what age did you plan your pregnancy? Were you financially independent? What kind of family values you're bringing? What is your relationship with your partner? Everything adds up.
I think that's why I'm a really awesome Nana. I have far more my patience is a whole different level now. I'm so patient with my granddaughters. I embrace the moments. I think one time Lena and I were together, and I think I was looking at my granddaughter's hands, and I think you recognized that I was doing it. I just wanted to remember her little baby hands, and I wanted that engraved in my vision, in my skull. And I was so busy trying to survive as a parent. I had my first son pregnant at 16. I had my second son at 19, and then I had my next child at 20. So I was very young. And so, I have to agree with you on that. If I were to have a child now, gosh, that scares me. Sorry, that I had to stop there for a second.
Gulp.
But I think I would be a better, more attentive parent because I'm far more mature now.
Yeah.
So.
And with a present partner, it's a
Yes,
huge difference.
absolutely.
But
Men play a big role, and their absence plays a huge role as well.
tremendous. Yeah.
It's serious. It's
know-
hard
Yes.
to be a single parent. It's hard to fill the shoes of the missing person that is on the other end. And I definitely get what you're saying about just it's like when as a grandparent, because I don't think it's just me and you as grandparents in the group.
Yeah.
So when you move into the grandparent stage, it's like now, because it feels like 100 years ago that that they were young, and I can't remember by pictures or whatever keepsake that I kept, because it's so far back. And so now it's like when you have you have the grandchildren, you're holding on to that. It's like, because it goes so far. And it made me think about, as right now, Miracle is a young mom, and, she's like, I can't wait for this stage to get, to go and be over. And all I can think about is how I miss that stage.
On stage.
And how I would love to go back to that stage and embrace, because I spent too much time hustling and bustling and trying to keep, my head afloat, as a young mom by myself. So we miss a lot of that. And now, as a grandparent, you try to hold on, snatch that up real quick.
And it's even harder when you are raised with certain values and cultures and you are uprooted from there, and then you're in a new country without any family support. And then you're trying to learn. Like, I feel, my daughter was born in India, and the first 5 years she was raised in India. So I had the whole tribe. I had the entire family. So I had more patience. I had more time. With my son, who was born here in the United States, I had nobody. I was lost myself. I was trying to fit in and then to be a parent. So that made it even harder.
I think this is a great topic for another conversation about raising children alone and with a partner and with our different cultures. So does anybody have anything else to add? Thank you for joining us. This was a really great conversation, ladies. I love talking to you guys about this. So everybody have a good night and happy Sunday.